Now, I think we should know this by now. For over 500 years of disenfranchisement, victim of terrorism, subjugation, right? Utter chaos, which caused a 500-year subjugation under the eyes of white supremacy, and that gave them a head start in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex, and war, which is why, quote unquote, they're called the dominant white society. They own and control all 9 areas of activity. But my point is that we're the only group of people classified as black or African American, right? And those are titles they gave us. We're the only group of people that allows non-black people to tell our story, that allows non-black people of a culture that we created, such as hip-hop. We allow non-black people to enter in our culture, and we automatically crown them as king, as greatest of all time. And because the dominant white society owns and controls the infrastructure, therefore they control the narrative. They can depict, let's just say, a rapper, a GOAT rapper, right? They will depict a white rapper such as an Eminem as greatest of all time, because we allowed that to happen. And we accept that because why? We have been dominated for over 500 years, victims of that. And so we suffer from so many mental disorders such as cognitive dissonance, post-traumatic slavery disorder, Stockholm syndrome. Those are the 3 I always talk about, just to name a few. It's a psychological and social warfare against black people to keep us oppressed and docile. And so it's a thing called illusion of inclusion, where all we want is so-called equal rights. We've been fighting for equal rights since the civil rights movement, right? And obviously things are not equal. Now, me personally, and if you follow me for any significant amount of time, you know that I don't believe in equal rights. I believe that we should have our own everything. It starts with reparations. It starts with our own land. It starts with our own laws, our own legislation. Owning and controlling all 9 areas of activity, as I said before. That's where it starts. Separation and having our own. Right? But like I said, we're the only group of people that allows non-black people to come into our culture and tell our history. And, I bring that up because there's an article I just came across where there is a non-black person, a non-black curator of a museum for black people, right? It's the National Museum of African American History and Culture. All right, it's based out of DC, and they have a hip hop section in that museum. All right, this museum is partnered with the Smithsonian Institute. Excuse me. So they have a hip hop section where and I have not been there yet. I plan on going there more than likely early next year to visit that museum in DC. But my point is that based off this article, there is a white curator who was appointed and approved by the members of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Not only are this non-black person, whose name is Timothy Ann Burnside, right? This is her. Timothy Ann Burnside has been appointed the curator for the hip hop section for the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Like I said, she's been approved by the board of the museum, and also she got the cosign from Fight the Power Public Enemy Chuck D. Right? And it says here, quote from his Twitter account, Burnside has put maximum effort and time into preserving black culture in the NMAHC. Her work has been diligent and with class and necessary respect. Support your local library. It'll make you understand the meaning of a true learning museum in this 21st century. So, again, like I said, you got Chuck D. All right. In my eyes, Public Enemy, probably the best group of hip hop, bar none. Public Enemy. Fight the Power, Public Enemy. Chuck D, the MC of the group. He co-signs a non-black person to curate the hip hop section, right, of the National Museum of African American History. He co-signed that. He said it's okay. Now, from my understanding and what I'm reading is that she has already been a part of the museum, already curating or working with the museum. So she has a working history with that museum, and she has a good rapport with the chairman and the executives of that museum. So they embraced her with open arms. Again, we're allowing non-black people to tell our narrative. Right? You show me. Again, this is the problem with black people, man. Again, because we have been victimized for over 500 years, all we are trying to do is be accepted and be equal. We're on that mindset of trying to be equal. No, we don't need to be equal. We need our own, period. And so when you have a mindset of allowing non-black people to come into our culture and tell our narrative, right? That's the mindset of someone that's looking for equality or so-called equality, looking for acceptance. When in fact you flip the script, they wouldn't allow a non-white person to tell their narrative. You're not going to see a black curator at a so-called Jewish museum. Show me that. Anybody in the comment section or anybody listening, I want you to show me a non-white person curating a Jewish museum or a Holocaust museum. I want you to show me that, because it's not going to happen. You see, those people, the so-called Jewish community, the Asian community, right? They're not going to allow nobody outside of their group to tell their narrative. Not only do they own and control, right, their museums and their infrastructure, but they're going to tell their own story. They're going to curate their own history. That's what they're going to do. Right? And the Jewish community, the Asian community, they have been victimized, but they also have been rewarded in the form of reparations. So they are going to continue to tell their history for and by them. They're not going to allow any outside folks outside of their community to tell their story, to tell their narrative. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Right? So, again, you have a group of black people. You have the National Museum of African American History and Culture, based out of DC. Black executives, right, approve of a non-black person to curate the hip-hop section of that museum. Why? Because Black people want so-called equality. They want to feel accepted by the dominant white society. That's the mindset. That's the mindset that we have because, again, we have been victimized for over 500 years. Right? When you have been victimized and institutionalized, it has a lasting effect. Remember, slavery is so powerful that it affects our DNA. And this is scientific fact. Look up my older videos where I talked about that. This is a DNA linkage of the effect of slavery. That's a negative effect to black people. So again, we not only have been victimized, not only have the dominant white society have a 500-year head start, but we are damaged because of that. And we have still not been rewarded in the form of reparations like any other group, such as the Asian community, the so-called Jewish community, the so-called Native Americans. They all got their reparations, but we don't. Because we're still looking for acceptance. We're still looking for equality. Right? And that's the problem. We allow non-black people to control our narrative. We embrace non-black people to come into our culture, and we automatically crown people such as an Eminem as the greatest rapper of all time. This is what we allow, and we also defend them as well. Just like Chuck D has. He defends this person. This Timothy Ann Burnside chick. I tried to go on her socials and she got a private account. So obviously she's very private. Don't know too much about her. Here's her website. She may have been doing some great contribution to the hip hop section of the museum. You know, she may have. But the point is that if you look at any other group, you're not going to see people outside of their own telling their narrative. You're not going to see a non-Jewish curator telling their narrative. You're not going to see a non-Asian curator telling their narrative in a museum. It's not going to happen. So on and so forth. Native Americans as well. You're not going to see that happening. You're not. But we're so quick to allow them to come into our culture and tell our narrative. That's the effect on us and the damage that over 500 years of slavery caused us to feel that way. Right? I mean, listen, these are just pure facts. The wealth gap between a black family and a white family, remember, they have a 500-year head start. So we're nowhere near where we need to be collectively as a group. We're still at the bottom of the totem pole. Bottom line. Bottom line. All right, family. So anyway, those are my thoughts about this story. I'll have the link in the description about this curator, this non-black curator that's creating the hip-hop exhibit section at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. All right, I'll leave the link down below in the description so you can check it out yourself, family. Make sure you leave your comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you follow me on social media at GMOGMediaTV, especially Instagram. It's all in the link down below in the description. All right, family, until next time, Chauncey, a.k.a. the Black Separatist, signing out. Peace.